All right, so we start with the active and passive voice. So first of all, we need to understand what is active voice and what is passive voice. So first of all, let us understand what active means. So active is someone who acts or performs an action, right? So a person who is performing an action, that person will be considered to be an active person. And passive person. Passive person is someone who accepts or allows what others are doing and he himself is not doing anything. All right, so this is the basic difference between active and passive. So in a sentence, when the subject does the action in a sentence, all right, when the subject does the action, the sentence is said to be in an active voice. So it is necessary for the subject present in the sentence to do the action. Yes, subject does the action. This is the most important thing in an active voice. And when the subject is being acted upon, so this line means here the subject is not doing anything, but the subject is acting upon. So some sort of work is being performed on the subject. So here the subject is passive in nature, which means that subject is accepting or allowing something else to happen instead of the subject actually doing something. All right, so this is the basic difference that we have between active and passive voice. Now we will see some examples to better understand that what is an active voice and what is a passive voice. All right, okay. So now see here. In most sentences, the subject performs the action denoted by the verb. So most of the times we see that the subject of the sentence is that person who does all the action. All right. For example, they watched the film. Now, in this sentence, you can very easily see that the subject of the sentence is they, right? Any doubt in that? So they is the subject. And what are they doing? They watched the film. So it is a past tense sentence and they watched. So basically, the action of watching is being performed by the subject. And what they did, they watched the film. So the film present over here is the object of the sentence. All right. Now see the second sentence. Now here the men. So men over here is the subject. And what are the men doing? They built. So built present over here is again the action that was done by the subject of the sentence, that is the men. And the object of the sentence is pool. So they built a pool, right? So again over here, the subject is doing something. All right. Now see the third example. The boy ate 5 sandwiches. So over here, see the boy. So the boy present over here is the subject of the sentence. And the activity of the boy was that he ate. So he ate 5 sandwiches. So 5 sandwiches present over here will be the object of the sentence. The subject will be the boy, and the boy is doing the action of eating sandwiches. Now see the last sentence. I write a diary. So I present over here will be the subject. Write will be the verb, the action that is being done. And a diary over here is the object. So the action is performed by the subject on the object diary. And the action is writing, right? So I write a diary. So in all these sentences, you can clearly see that the subject present in the sentence is performing or doing something. Yes, performing an action. And the object of the sentence is passive. The object is not doing anything. Instead, something is being done upon the object. Film is being watched. Pool is being built. Yes, sandwiches are being eaten. So in all these cases, the subject is doing something and the object is being acted upon. So in all these cases, the sentence is said to be in the active voice. Now we will see some examples of the passive voice, that what happens in a passive voice. So the difference, now read the same sentence with a change in order. So we will take the same sentences and we will see when their order is changed. The subject is acted upon by the verb and the subject is passive. So in the previous sentences, what was happening was that the subject was doing something. It was active in nature. It was performing a certain action. Now you will find that the action is being performed by the object and not the subject, but the subject will be passive and the subject will be acted upon. Something will happen to the subject itself. All right. For example, a film was watched by them. So in this case, you can clearly see that a film is the subject of the sentence, but a film, is the film doing anything? No. Instead, it is being watched by them. So them present over here is actually the person who is doing something, right? So the object them present over here, they are doing something. And a film was watched. So the film was being watched. So in this case, you can see that the subject is being acted upon. The subject is not active in nature. For example, a pool was built by the men. So in this case also you can see that actually the men are working, right? And men are present in the place of object. Pool is the subject over here and pool is not doing anything. Instead, it is being worked upon. A pool is being built, right? And who is building the pool? The men are building the pool. So here in these sentences, you can see that the object is working and the subject is passive. In the previous sentences, what was happening? The men were building the pool. So the men, the subject of the sentence was active. Now see, 5 sandwiches were eaten by the boy. So in this case, again, you will find that 5 sandwiches, which was the object in the previous sentence, now it has become the subject of the sentence. And the boy who was eating, and the boy was the subject and he was active. Here the boy has become the object of the sentence, right? And boy is active over here, but we see whether the subject is active or not. And over here, 5 sandwiches, that is the subject of the sentence, is passive in nature. The sandwiches are not doing anything. Instead, they are being acted upon. They are being eaten by the boy, right? So here also the voice will be passive. A diary is written by me. So in this case, again, you will find that a diary is the subject of the sentence, but you will find that diary is not doing anything. It is passive in nature. Instead, it is being written by me. So I write a diary. The actual sentence was I write a diary. So in this case, I was doing something. I, the subject, was doing something. But over here, a diary, that is the subject. Diary is not doing anything. Diary is passive in nature. Instead, the object of the sentence, that is me present over here, me is doing something, right? So in all these cases, you can find that them, the men, the boy, me, all these objects of the sentence, they are active in nature, and the subject present in all these sentences, they are passive in nature and they are being acted upon by the objects. So that is why all these sentences are said to be in the passive voice. Okay. Rules to change an active sentence into a passive sentence. So now we will see these examples. Birds build nests. So in this case, you can easily see that subject present in the sentence is birds, and they are performing an action of building, and the object of the sentence is nest. So they are building nests. All right. The teacher taught the students. So here also you will find that teacher is the subject and teacher is the subject is active. It is doing something. What it is doing? It is teaching, right? So the subject taught the students. So students are passive. They are the object in the sentence. Now to make sentences in the passive voice, to change the voice, we make some changes. So now we are going to see what are the changes that are required to convert an active voice sentence into a passive voice. All right. Move the object of the sentence in the active voice to the subject position. So this is the first and the most important thing, that the object of the sentence that is present in the active voice is placed on the subject position in the passive voice. For example, here the object is nest in the active voice. So what is going to happen? So in the passive voice, nest is going to come in the subject position. So we are basically exchanging the subject and object positions in the active and passive voice. So birds, which was the subject in active voice, has become the object in passive voice, and nest, that was the object in active voice, has now become the subject in passive voice. So we have basically exchanged the positions of the subject and object in the two voices. In this sentence also, see the second one. The teacher taught the students. So in the active voice, the teacher is the subject over here. But if you see the passive voice, teachers is placed in the end at the object's position. So the subject that was present in the active voice has now become the object in the passive voice. And the students that were being acted upon in the passive voice, active voice, they have now become the subject in the passive voice. So the students have been placed at the subject's position. So the position of teacher and students have been exchanged, right? The positions have been reversed in the passive voice. So this is the first thing that we do. Now let's see what are the other changes that are being done. Okay. Use the appropriate be verb according to the sentence of the active voice. So be verb is basically auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. So be what is the form that be verbs takes? It is, are, were, has, have. All these forms are taken by the be verb, right? So it is necessary to use the be verb when we convert a sentence from active voice into a passive voice. For example, nests are built by birds. So if we go back to the previous sentence, we will find that it is birds build nests. So over here, you will find that nothing is attached after or before build. Build is present alone over here. Birds build nest. But if you see the next sentence, are has been placed over here. So what is are? Are is the form of be verb, right? So it is an auxiliary verb that has been placed before build. It is important in the passive voice. So we will have to see the tense in which we are talking about in the active voice, and accordingly we are going to place the be verb. For example, in this case, birds build nest, it is present in the present tense, right? That is why we are using are. If it was the sentence would have been in the past tense, then we would have used was or were in its place, right? For example, see this sentence. The teacher taught the students, right? So in this case, the sentence is in the past tense. So what are the changes that are happening? Let's see. So first of all, the position of the teacher has been changed. The teacher has gone into the object's place, and the students have come into the subject place. So first of all, we have reversed the position of the subject and the object. Then what is the next thing that we have done? We have added the be verb. You can see were present over here. And why were has been is present over here? Because the original sentence said that the teacher taught. So that sentence was in the past tense. That is why we have used the past form of the be verb were, right? So because the sentence has become in the past tense, and the subject of this sentence, the students, it is in the plural form. That is why we are using were over here. If it was just a student or a child, anything singular, then we would have used was instead of were. Are you understanding? So these are the first two rules that we have to follow. What is the first rule? First rule is we have to change the position of the subject and the object in the passive voice. And the second thing is we need to add an auxiliary verb to the main verb. Main verb present over here in this sentence is build, and the main verb present over in the here in the second sentence is taught. And in both the sentences, we have added an auxiliary verb be for are over here and were over here. So these are the first two changes that we made to convert the sentence from an active voice into a passive voice. Now we will see what is the third change that we have to make. Now let's see. The object of the transitive verb, or all right, so this is the third use. Use the present perfect participle of the verb. So perfect participle is required to be used for the main verb. So in the original sentence, we said birds build nest. So what is the third form of build? It is built, right? So we are going to use the third form or the participle form of verb in the passive voice. This is the rule. All right. For example, the teacher taught the students. So what is the third form of teach? The third form of the verb teach is taught only. So here we are not changing anything and we have just placed taught over here. All right. So the students were taught, which is the be form of auxiliary verb, right? And over here we have placed the third form of the verb teach. And the positions of the object and the subject have been exchanged. The students have been placed at the subject's place and teachers has been placed at the object's place. All right. Now, one more thing is important, that when we convert a sentence into a passive voice, we also require to use by before the object. So whenever a work is performed, for example, nests are built by birds. So here the object is doing something, so we use by before it. We are using a preposition. All right. For example, see the second sentence. The students were taught by the teacher. In the original sentence, you will not find this preposition by present. All right. It will not be present in the active voice because it was the teacher taught the students. Bird built nests. So this by was not present. But in the active voice, in the passive voice, before the object, we are going to put by. All right. So these are the four major changes that you are going to do to convert an active voice sentence into a passive voice. The first change being that you are going to reverse the position of the subject and the object. The second change will be you will use auxiliary verb be. All right. And then in the third thing will be that you are going to change the form of the main verb into its perfect participle form. That is the third form of the verb will be used. And before the object, you are going to use a preposition. And most of the times it will be by. That the nests are built by birds. The students were taught by the teacher. So these are the four basic changes that you are going to make in most of the sentence to convert an active voice sentence into a passive voice. But sometimes what happens is you always don't use by. Sometimes some other preposition may also be used. For example, consider this sentence. The students know the answer. So over here in this case, you can see the subject is students and answer is the object, right? So what is happening? First of all, it is being reversed, the position. So the answer has become the subject and the students have become the object in the passive voice. So this is the first change. Now let's see the second change. The form of be verb is being used, the appropriate form, and over here it is, right? So this is the second change that we have made. No was the main verb present over here. So the third form of no has been used, that is known. Because what is the second form? It is new. No, new, and known. So the third form of no is being used over here, that is known. And what is the fourth thing? We had to place a preposition before the object, right? So here we have used to and not by. So in some cases, we won't use by because to is more appropriate over here according to the usage, right? So the answer is known to the students, right? So here, these are the four rules that we follow to change an active voice sentence into a passive voice. All right. Any doubts up till now? All right. So now we will repeat this part again. So in the first sentence, you can see that Pratima writes a letter has been changed to a letter is written by Pratima. So what is happening? We are applying the first rule, that is we are exchanging the positions of the subject and the object. So Pratima, which was the subject over here in the active voice, has become the object in the passive voice. And a letter, that was the object in the active voice, has now become the subject in the passive voice. So this is the first change that we did. What is the second change? It was the be form, the auxiliary verb that was being added. So here you can see is has been added over here. Why is has been used? Because letter is a singular thing, right? So we are using is. If it was letters, we would have used are, right? And since it is a case of simple present, that is why we are using is and are. If it was in the past tense like Pratima wrote, then we would have used was written, right? And if it was a plural, then we would have written were written. Are you understanding? So it will depend on the tense in which we are talking about. If it is in the present tense, simple present, then we are going to use is, are. If it is in the simple past, then we are going to use was and were, right? And if it is in the present continuous, then we are going to use is writing. So it will change into is being written. So ing. So ing will be inserted before after be, right? So we are coming to that second sentence. First of all, let's just look at the first sentence. So the correct form of be verb has been placed. After that, what was the third rule? We needed the third form of the verb. So what is the first form? It is write. The second form is wrote, and the third form is written. So here we are using the third form, that is written. Then what was the last thing? That before the object we needed to insert a preposition, mostly by, and if by is not appropriate, then we will insert some other preposition. So here by was appropriate for us, so we have inserted by. So what the sentence becomes? A letter is written by Pratima, right? Now let's see the second example. It is of present continuous tense. So how are we going to write a present continuous sentence? Pratima is writing a letter. So this activity is going on right now. So again, first of all, we need to change the position of the subject and object. So that happens. A letter which is the subject goes into the object position, and the object present in the active voice. All right. Pratima, which was the subject in the active voice, has now become the object. So this is the basic thing which is being done in all the sentences. Now the second thing is the correct form of be verb. So since ing form is being used over here, So the correct form of be over here is being. All right. So the be verb is replaced with is being over here. Then again, we use the third form, that is written. This is not going to change. We are always going to use the third form. And then what was the last thing? We are going to put by before the object. All right. Now let's see the perfect form, present perfect form. Pratima has written a letter. Now again, you will find that the position of the subject and object is exchanged. Pratima, which was the subject, immediately moves into the object's position. A letter, that was the object, immediately moves into the subject's position. And has written was there, because the present perfect form of tense is has written, right? This is the form of the present perfect. So what we have added, been has been added. So the auxiliary, the helping verb be over here is been for the perfect tense. So it is, are, was, were for the simple tense, ing with be for the continuous tense, and been for the perfect tense. So the be verb takes different forms for different types of tenses. So you need to understand and learn these forms. Otherwise, you will make a lot of mistakes in conversion. So this be form of verb is a bit tricky for you. Otherwise, all the other things are quite simple, because you just have to exchange the places of the subject and the object. You have to insert by before the object in the passive voice, and you have to use the third form, always the third form. So it will always be written, written, written for everything. But this be form will keep on changing according to the tense, right? So you will have to be very particular about the be form, the auxiliary verb. That whatever the form of the tense will be used in the active voice, you will have to use the similar form of be verb for the passive voice. Otherwise, your conversion will be wrong. All right. Now let's see the simple past case. Again, you will see that the position of Pratima and letter have been exchanged and by has been placed. So this is very easy. Here you will find that it is the case of simple past. So in simple present, you saw that is was placed, right? You will see is has been placed. So here it is simple past. So in place of be, was has been placed. And again, you will find that the third form of the verb right, that is written, has been used. So three things are very easy. That is by placed at before the object in the passive voice, exchange of the positions of subject and object in the passive voice, and the use of the third form of the main verb. So these three things are very easy, and you will most of the times do it correctly. But the only tricky part will always be the correct form of be verb that you will have to insert in all the sentence. So be very careful about it. Now let's see the past continuous form. So what is happening? Was being written. So in the present continuous form, you see it is being written. And for the past continuous form, it is was being written. So was being is the correct form of the be verb for the sentence when it is converted from active voice to passive voice, when the sentence is in past continuous form. All right. All the things, other things are just the same. You have to change the position of the subject and the object. You just have to place by before the object in the passive voice, and you will use the third form for right, that is written. So this is always the same, but was being, was written, has been written. So you can find that the be form of the verb is constantly changing. All right. So you need to learn it well. Now we will see for the future tense. So you can see Pratima will write a letter. So again, you will find that a letter has come into the subject's place, Pratima has gone into the object's place, and by has been inserted before the object, that is Pratima. So all these things are just the same. Write has been changed into written, that is the third form of write. So all the three rules are again the same. But will has been changed into will be for the simple future tense. So these are the general rules. All right. So if you learn all these rules, how be is being used for different types of tenses, then you will not make mistakes. For example, future tense for future perfect, you see, will have written. So how it has been changed? Will have been written. So again, you find that for the perfect tense, been has been used. For the ing form is going to be written, ing is being used, right? And for the simple form, it is will be written. So you will always find that there will be some changes regarding the be form of the verb. All right. So you need to remember it. You need to memorize these forms. Okay. Now we will solve 4 to 5 sentences so that we can see whether you have understood or not. All right. So now who is going to answer? Yes, Mayank.
Sir, the answer will be, sir, uh, he is not bothered by the gossip.
All right. So Mayank, what are the changes you are making over here? Tell about all
Sir,
of them.
sir, the first change is, sir, the bother here, sir, him is the object here, sir.
Yes.
And sir, we shall change him by the gossip,
Yes.
which sir made this sentence passive.
Yes. So see, first of all, what was the first change? That him that was present in the object's place, that has been changed into the subject place. So the subject is he, because the he is the subject form of pronoun, right? So he has been placed instead of him, and the gossip that was the subject in the active voice has now become the object in the passive voice. So this was the first rule. Then the second rule was that we had to use the be form, right? So the be form present over here is. You will not find is present in the active voice. So this is the correct form of be verb present. All right. Then what you will find, from where the noise is coming, man, mute yourself. So is the form of the be verb that we are using over here. Then what was the third change that we needed? It was bothered, the third form of the verb bother, right? So this is the third form of the verb bother. And what was the last thing that we needed? It was that before the object in the passive voice, we needed to place by, right? So all the four changes have been made. That is the exchange of the subject and the object, the placing of the correct form of be verb, that is over here, then the third form of the main verb, that is bother, which is bothered over here, and the placing of the preposition by before the object in the passive voice. All right. Now who is going to answer the second one for me? Yes, Pranjal. Attempt.
Good morning, teachers.
Good morning.
Sir, the answer will be the seeds has been
Yes.
sown by the gardener.
The seeds. Oh, okay. Yes, Pranjal, repeat. The seeds.
Has been.
No, this is the wrong thing you will say. when you are using seeds, it won't be has, it will become have.
Have been.
Yes, the
Yes.
seeds have been sown
Sown by the gardener.
by the gardener. All right. So now I'm going to explain what is happening over here. So the seeds that was the object has now become the subject, right? And the gardener, which was the subject, has now become the object. So this is the first change. Then the second change that you find over here, that we have placed by before the gardener. So two rules have been followed. Now, what is the third thing? Have been has been used. So this is the correct form of the be verb that we had to use, right? And the third form of the verb was also required, and sown is the third form of the verb, right? It is sow, sowed, and sown. All right. So since the sentence was already in the present perfect form, and the perfect form of tense already uses the third form of the verb, so we did not have to change the sown over here because it was already in the third form. So we have just placed sown over here. All right. So this is the third form of the main verb sown. We have used by, we have used the have been, that was the correct form of be verb for this, and we have exchanged the position of the subject and the object, exchanged them. All right. Yes, Angel.
Good morning, teachers.
Good morning.
So the answer will be 2 bicycles were stolen by the thief.
No, it won't be were. See, the sentence is in the present perfect form. So I just showed you the chart earlier. See how the be form of the verb is used when it is present perfect. Then answer me. You have the chapter PDF, right?
Yes.
See what is the form that the be verb is going to take when it is in the when the active voice is in the present perfect form.
So have been, has been.
Yes, have been stolen. Now you are right. That is why I am saying that remember that chart very well, because that chart shows that you have to make changes accordingly with the tense that is present in the active voice. All right. First, you will have to identify the tense that is present in the active voice. Then accordingly, you are going to use the be form of the verb. All right. Otherwise, it will always be wrong. You said was stolen, it was the case of a simple past tense. All right. If it was the thief stole the bicycle, then it would have been the bicycle was stolen, or the thief stole the bicycles, then it would have been the bicycles were stolen. All right. It was the case of simple past, but here we are talking about the present perfect form. So here it will be two bicycles have been. Why have? Because we are talking about bicycles, which is plural, so we are using have. If it was bicycle, then we would have used has. So two bicycles have been stolen. Then what are we going to do? We are going to use the preposition by the thief. So now see what are the changes that have been made. Again, we have changed the places of the object and the subject. Then we have used the form of be verb over here, that is have been, right? We have placed the preposition by, and we have used the third form of steal. Steal is the first form, stole is the second form, and the third form of steal is stolen. So the third form of the verb has been used. Have been is the correct form of be verb, and by has been placed before the object in the passive voice, right? And the subject and the object have been exchanged. All right. So today we are going to do on this much only. So for tomorrow, your homework is basically that you go through that chart very well. All right. And you remember and memorize it well, that for different sorts of tenses in the active voice, what is the correct form of be verb that we are going to use, right? Otherwise, you will always be in trouble in conversion. You will always go wrong. So you should know if the sentence is in simple present, then what is going to be the correct form of be verb. If it is in the present perfect, then what is the correct form of be verb. If it is in the past continuous, right, then what is the correct form of be verb. So this is required. It is very necessary. Otherwise, you will always go wrong. You have already studied tenses, so it should not be so much complicated for you. That is why we are immediately doing this after studying tenses, so that it is easy for you to understand. So memorize that chart well, understand it, so that tomorrow we will do some special cases. For example, if there are interrogative sentences, right? For imperative sentences, then how are we going to convert it? So there are certain special cases that we are going to discuss tomorrow in detail. Then we will solve those exercises also. So it is important for you to remember the correct form of be verb for all the tenses. All right, so that tomorrow we can do it in a much better way. I think tomorrow you don't have an English language class. Then we will do it on Thursday. Tomorrow you have only literature class, I think. All right, so we will do it on Thursday. So come prepared. All right. Okay. Thank you to all the students. Thank you, ma'am.